Hello, and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. Today, I have one of my most amazing clients, Amy, and so many of her growth aspects in the last few months really latch on to so many things that you ladies struggle with. And we're going to bring in some taboo topics, some things that you might be like, wait, why are we talking about this? But it is usually the very reason that many of us relapse. Many of us go to food for comfort. Many of us sabotage. Many of us feel so uncomfortable in our own skins. Many of us feel like we're the problem. It's us, it's this. And we keep trying to solve it with the wrong thing. Or it shows itself in other ways. Like, what if I fail? What if this? So we never truly allow ourselves to commit to the right process because we don't even know what we're in half the time. Many of us realize we're in this mass confusion of spinning our wheels. The other half of us, well, we just keep trying to find what this one thing is that's just going to be the magic pill. So we end up spending more money than we need and never actually feeling there. But a few things that we're going to talk about is just how important your relationship with yourself is in the way it shows up with how you are around food, your relationship with others, especially your partner, even how your sex life has a lot to do with this, and how suppressing feelings leads to you either regaining the weight back, gaining more weight, going to diets over and over, or just this binge eating, emotional eating, addiction to food. Why is food the biggest struggle for me? Because you can have your training in check. You can have I'm doing all of the work. Why is nothing working? And a lot of it comes down to this. And then the worst part of it is that there are people out there that we should trust that put a sour taste in our mouths, or that make us think that this is how it's supposed to be. And because they have doctor on their name or coach on their name, or because they should know the things, it makes you feel like you're the problem. Many things can make you feel like you're the problem. And funny, full circle, let's go back to what I just started this whole thing with, your relationship with yourself. You're the problem. Shame. I need to be harder on myself. I need to go harder. Why am I like this? Why do I keep failing? Why can't I get a grip on food? Why do I keep going to chocolate? What's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this shit out? Why do I keep going back to my old habits? It's the self-dialogue that keeps you stuck. But with that, I'm going to start this conversation off with Amy. And we are going to end this conversation with talking a little bit about her diet, her success with her diet, because she's the leanest she's ever been. She has definitions she's never seen before, and she's eating and aiming for more food than she's ever had before. And that's mainly because we just came up to maintenance. And I know that if you still have a lot of fat to lose, the idea of eating more food once you've just cut your calories is like, oh my God, what if I gain the weight back? So yeah, you're in for a ride with this podcast. I'm opening the floor up to you because you spoke about feeling your feelings, internal acceptance muscle, and the possibilities that opens up when you allow yourself to. So I guess when you came to me, you didn't tell me until like 8 months into this that your marriage was a mess and this, that, and the other. And you didn't realize all of this had to do with how you were experiencing yourself and food. And now what I see is probably the most satisfied that you've been in your own marriage. And funny enough, it's the most in love with yourself, truly, that you've ever been. So let's start there and let's go from there.
Yeah. So when I came to you, it's been like roughly 16 months ago that I started, and I had experienced, I guess, a trauma trigger or a childhood trauma spiral where that was triggered, and that kind of childhood wound or mother wound, you could call it, was really raw, and it kept getting poked at. And I honestly didn't know what I was going to do or where I was going to go from there. I got a therapist, and then Ruby happened to scoop me up, is what I like to call it. I was not looking for a coach. I had a coach, and I had a difficult experience in that situation for about 5 years. And I've gained and lost the like 20 pounds, like probably 50 times, it seems like. And so I have really suppressed my feelings throughout childhood and then into adulthood. And I didn't really realize necessarily that I was doing it. It was a defense mechanism. And so the main thing that helped me was to actually allow myself to go very, very deep with my feelings. And what surprised me about that is that it opened up so much love and so much self-compassion and compassion for my husband and compassion for my family and my important people in my life. And it was just quite frankly amazing to access those feelings. And I was scared because we naturally shy away from what we consider negative feelings and grief and loss and any sense of shame. And that was another piece of it, is that I had this deep sense of shame that it was always my fault whenever anything went wrong.
When you came to me, you literally used the words, "You are addicted to food." And I feel like that part, as well as the whole exploration that you just mentioned with the exploring your feelings, the going deeper into the other layers, you came to me to change your body, like most people do. You came to me to fix, quote unquote, your eating, to get you unaddicted to food, because I made it seem, I don't even know what I said in particular, which is what I'm going to ask you, that made you realize that, hey, or made you think, hey, this coach, Ruby, has the answers to my addiction to my food. She's going to help me. She's going to stop my addiction. She said it's not an addiction. What could it be? What element of you made you then say, okay, I have to trust this process. I need to explore this part of myself and allow me to feel my feelings? And why do you feel like it was such a barrier before? And what made that switch when it was such a hard thing for you to do?
I would have to say, I don't know that it was anything in particular that you said. I think it was more the compassion that I felt from the get-go from you, and just a sense of, okay, this person knows what she's doing.
Oh no, I just remembered what I told you to do.
Oh,
I just remembered. Remember, the first task that I gave you had nothing to do with food. It was, I want you to give me a list of all the things that, do you remember the hobbies? To find joy. And you got into calligraphy. I remember. Yes, I told you, I want you to find joy in life. I want you to get me a list of hobbies. And I want you to be spending more time outside. I don't want you doing your cardio on a bike. I don't want you doing any cardio. I want you outside, experiencing nature, getting your walks in, and finding something that makes you happy. I want you to walk for that. I remember now. Okay, now go.
Yeah, that's right. It was, it was finding joy. Yeah, that was it. And I thought, this is interesting, because I thought we were going to talk about food. And when you ask me questions, I would try to tailor it to what I thought you wanted to hear as far as food and exercise and everything. And when I started walking, I fell in love with walking, with my walks and listening to my playlist. I have like a bunch of songs and I keep adding them. It's mostly 80s music. And I'm fortunate enough to have this paved trail very close to my house. And so I've been walking lately 15,000 to 20,000 steps. But anyway, when I first started, that was actually, oh my gosh, I felt better right away, pretty quickly. In the first couple of weeks, I felt better because of that, because of the compassion that I felt, I would say I did feel compassion from you, and that, okay, I felt like held, I guess would be the word too. And it took a little while to completely trust, as it does usually, but that was key. And so was this freedom with food. Like you put me right into maintenance and up to my calories, because I was eating, but at one time I was eating 1,000 calories a day, and then I think we bumped it up to 1,200, and then at one point it was 1,500. But anyway, I remember I hadn't had bread in a really long time, and my husband and I went to Subway, and I got a sandwich, and I just thought I had died and gone to heaven eating that sandwich. And my husband was just looking at me like, what the heck?
I love that. Yeah, it's huge when you stop putting yourself to such tight restraints that you're inevitably going to fail. And that was what you then reflected on, saying that you were doing. It's like, well, you're continuing to fail anyway, but you're just going to keep doing it because what the hell? And you knew in your mind that you needed to make the shift, but you didn't. But this, again, stems from the relationship with yourself. It stems from you feeling fulfilled or lack of fulfillment in other areas. So it's kind of like this rush. So what I want to kind of do now is how that then helped you move away from the binge eating, the overeating, that realization that you weren't actually addicted to food or addicted to this lust. I will say lust, this lust for delicious, like indulgent foods. And then on the other element, you did say that you had to lean into trust, and it did take a while. And I think this kind of factors into the podcast that I had with Dal, in how I mentioned that you're never going to have a fulfilling relationship that is filled with love. If we're talking about relationships, if you're always worried about what if we end up breaking up and I have the worst heartbreak in the world, and if you've ever experienced heartbreak in your life, you probably know how devastating it is, that kind of stuff. So you stop yourself going all in. And because of that, you never really get to experience all the greatness of love. And this can be related to so many other things. But then in actually taking the right approach to diets, so many people are afraid of going all in to the maintenance phase, all in to, well, I wouldn't even say maintenance, just not focusing on rushing to the end goal anymore, doing it through slashing calories and doing it through, let's focus on getting stronger, let's focus on building muscle. People do that, but they still have the idea in their head, I know I need to lose weight later on, which kind of sabotages you regardless, because the fact that it's on your mind is still adding to the diet fatigue that's going to stop you from ever losing fat in the end, because you're going to keep sabotaging. Take that.
Yes. So, yeah, I, with the food, I would feel the least bit of discomfort or twinge in my body. I'd feel uncomfortable, like feelings would try to come up, and I would go straight to eating food, and I would call it making a concoction. I'd use whatever I had on hand, because I don't keep a lot of sweets or junk in the house, because I had been like dieting for 5 years. And but I would use whatever I had to try to make something to eat. And as we went along, I think the most helpful thing was to become aware of it and to take that pause. There's so much power in that pause when we can stop and think about it, rather than it being just an automatic thing. And so I learned to do that. And that was a process, like you said, to trust the process. And it's definitely not linear. It's like 5 steps backward, 2 steps forward. And it's this zigzag, and it can be fairly stressful. We think we're doing well, and then we take a few steps back. But I remember one key thing that you said is, I called those mistakes, and you said they're learnings. And something that I think that Dal mentioned it in her podcast about consider it practice, that you're practicing this. And it's a new thing because you've been dieting for, well, I have for at least 5 years prior to meeting you. I had been dieting that whole time. And so this was learning a new way to be and to be with myself. And I will tell you, I just don't like being uncomfortable in any sense. I can't stand camping outside, like roughing it, because I feel like that's the biggest inconvenience and discomfort in the world. And
What
so,
what don't you like about being uncomfortable? Because I think this relates to so many things.
yeah, I just can't stand it. And so I won't even allow myself to do it. Or I guess past tense, I wouldn't allow myself to do it before. And now I realize that in sitting with those uncomfortable feelings, that's how I heal, and that's how I change, and that's how I learn to trust myself, and to trust that the feelings aren't going to overtake me, or that I'm not going to just fall apart, that I can sit with the feelings. And I'm a grief therapist, and often there are parallels between this process and the grieving process. And I tell people to trust the process. And I tell people, I tell my clients to embrace their feelings and move toward the grief. And I talk a good talk, but I had never experienced that personally until recently. And I know now how powerful that can be, to move toward the feelings, even the feelings that are hard or the feelings that we consider negative.
I feel like that part there is huge, because one thing that we never allow ourselves to do is really embrace the change process, like I mentioned. And that is in itself discomfort. Change isn't comfortable. We rather, what's the word? We rather the devil we know. We rather put ourselves through hell keeping the same outcome because we know what the outcome's going to be, than to risk anything else, even if that thing could be the greatest thing of all. And it can be really scary if then we fear, what if we end up in a worse position? We don't trust ourselves. We haven't built that confidence within ourselves. And you did mention the pause when you had those emotions around food, the pause. But the pause isn't enough if you're going to berate yourself in that moment when you do overeat, when you do go back to your old habits. And you did say as well that progress isn't linear. It kind of revolves. And that's like, it's going to have sunshines and rainbows, and it's going to have storms. Kind of like, it's funny, kind of like marriages. And if you expect it's funny. Social media makes it seem like it's the easiest thing of all. There's no struggles because people only paint their highlights. If you expect it to always turn out like social media or like the fit pros that literally are living the lives, then you're going to continue to sabotage because you think there's something wrong with you. If you keep expecting your marriage or your relationship to be like fairy tales, to never have arguments, to never have struggles, you're never going to want to speak your voice because you're afraid of something happening, of them taking it a certain way. This is going to relate to food too, don't worry, but of them taking it a certain way. So then you don't speak up. And there's a whole lot of shame with that. But then it's going to build up, it's going to accumulate, and then it's going to burst. Now think about it with food. You don't expect there to be anything going wrong in the process of getting a new coach. It's like, well, I got a new coach now, I should see the best progress ever. Well, no, you still have to do the work. And secondly, every single thing comes with some form of, how did you say it? Oh, here we go. We think we are doing well, and then we take steps back, and it's like, oh, fuck. And if you then see that as a moral failure, as in you're doing something wrong, you might not even speak up to your coach. And in not doing that, you're going to keep revolving the cycle. But also, so many people stay in denial where food is their struggle, and you avoid the very topic or talking about the things that you're doing behind the scenes, and then wonder why the plan isn't working, because you make yourself believe so wholeheartedly that you're doing everything right while the rest stays under the pillows. So this is a huge thing, because if you're going to bring shame into this, if you don't have that relationship with yourself, it's going to impact your progress, because you're not going to address the very things that need to be addressed because it's uncomfortable.
Yes, that's so true. And what comes to mind as you're talking about the thinking and being in denial is that and the fairy tale type thing, my thinking was, I mean, of course, this is always going to be a work in progress. I'm never going to reach some finish line when I'm done. Or, we have this destination mentality like, oh, I've reached my destination, I've lost the weight, and that's not how it works. But anyway, I think some of my thinking was like fantasy thinking and making up these stories in my head about the way that it should be, and it wasn't the way I thought it should be. So I thought it was wrong, like whether it was me or my relationship with my husband. I thought that, and because of childhood trauma, I think, and because of the shame that I heaped on myself, uh, I was always seeing things as my fault rather than seeing things as, okay, here are the facts, this is what's going on, and you can approach it this way and not blame yourself. It's not your fault. It's the way that life goes. And I think that got all kind of tangled up together with the fantasy thinking. And then, oh, if it didn't go according to that, then I must be doing something wrong, or I don't look like these people on these influencers or whatever, then I must be doing something wrong, rather than having the wrong tools for the job.
I love that last part. Exactly. Because they can be really good tools. But yeah, a hammer is a great tool if the nail is the object, but a hammer is a really bad tool if even though it looks the same, it's a friggin' screw. You don't hammer in a screw. Like, that ain't gonna work. And you can't really screw in a nail because it doesn't really have the slots on the top. But on that same note, this working on yourself ended up helping your marriage because you never felt so fulfilled in yourself that it was impacting your marriage. And then that in itself was impacting how you felt on yourself, which it just became this whole spiral. And because you wouldn't let yourself feel that discomfort of emotions, that then showed itself through food, and it kept showing itself through over exercising, overeating. I want you to bring that in. But the fantasy thing just brought something up. And there was the shame around views of marriage, views of all that stuff because of religion, etc. So whenever you felt certain things that were quote unquote wrong, you would feel shame for that. It's my fault. I shouldn't feel this way. And because of that, there's all this accumulating fantasy that comes out the other end of it should be like this. So then we compare our actual experiences with what we think it should look like. Now relate that to food. I just made this connection now. Now relate that to food. We feel like we should be able to have a grip on food. It should be easy. People make it seem so easy. I should be able to do this already. If I'm on this many calories, I should be losing weight. And because we have this idea of how things should be, and we overestimate our capabilities in doing something like this, because food isn't about food. It's about so much more. So then when we can't get a grip on it, we feel shame for not being able to uphold that standard. So then we keep sabotaging ourselves, just like we keep sabotaging our relationships, because we expect relationships to look like this when no, they're actually like this in reality. We expect our results to look like this, whereas no, they're actually like this in reality. And then we never actually have a sense of safety within ourselves. So then we're always beating up on ourselves. And without a sense of safety, you're never going to allow yourself to do the things you need to do, because not only is there not a sense of safety, you're scared that if you let yourself feel anything, if you let yourself even take a step to doing things differently, the world's going to break loose. And that was meant for relationships and for food, because relationships aren't just with other people, they're with yourself. In fact, they stem from the relationship with yourself, which we already mentioned. And then we fill that void with food. So it's a cycle. Elaborate.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely is. And the stories I would tell myself about food and the lies, like being dishonest with myself was a big thing. Like I'd eat something and not log it or not put it. I log my food. I know that not everyone does. I log my food in my fitness pal. I just find that I need to do that for me. But I'd have it and I'd think, oh, this isn't going to matter. And I wouldn't put it in there. So I wasn't being entirely honest with myself about the food that I was eating. And so those are kind of stories I tell myself, oh, it won't matter. This is just a little bit. It's not gonna, and granted, you know, a little bit isn't gonna matter, but over the course of days and weeks and months, having a little bit each day does make a difference.
You worried the judgment, the shame, and this kind of ties back to the shame around the whole relationship, sexuality, blah, 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 blah. Bad coaches, because you're going to be worried about what others think. This can be everything. You can be worried about what others think in terms of you within your own body. Oh, they're going to think I'm fat. Or the worst thing is when you're in the bedroom with your husband and then you don't even want to get undressed in front of him, and then you're not having a fulfilling, this is kind of like a whole spiral. You're not having a fulfilling relationship there, a fulfilling sex life, and then you feel worse within yourself. And then that shows itself through food, through the way that you want to keep changing your body. And because you make it all an issue around you, like you're the problem, this isn't you in particular, you'll be the next one. Then you make it like you're the problem, then you will be the problem, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now with you, it's more so, okay, well, we're worried about what others think. The bad coaches, they shame us for overeating. They shame us for not being able to stick to the plan because we overate. And that was something that you told me because you were worried about telling me about particular times that you had the extra chocolate, the truffles. I just made the link with you. And I remember that time when you actually shared it with me. I'm like, holy shit, this is the biggest thing ever, because now I can actually get you to start logging all of these things that you quote unquote should not be eating, but you are still going into. And it was only because Rumpelstiltskin, you cannot defeat anything that, well, not defeat, but you can't address anything. You can't break through that thing if it doesn't have a name to it. Unless, I don't even remember the whole thing. I think it's like the princess or something. I don't know. Whatever the dude is that needs to know the guy's name, Rumpelstiltskin, until he knew Rumpelstiltskin's name, the curse was never going. I know it was a curse though. The curse was never going to be broken. So your curse is never going to be broken until you be okay with sitting in the discomfort, naming the feelings, and allowing yourself to go there. But like you said, you were scared of what that's going to lead to. What if this happens? What if that happens? Which is why you should not do this without the help of a qualified counselor, a qualified therapist. The only reason I'm able to do this deep of a work with Amy is because she is a therapist in herself, and she also has a therapist. So this is only something that you can address with a coach if you have your own therapist, because the coach isn't supposed to help you through this. They're supposed to guide you, help you build these reflections to then have the conversations with your therapist, because then the ties can be linked. I don't think it's useful having a therapist without a coach who is trauma informed, because they need to work together so that you can link them to the end outcome that you want. Because otherwise you're not going to really get anywhere with the therapist, because it's not really tying to your reality and your lived experience with what you're currently doing in your fitness and health journey, and vice versa, because you're never going to break through the self-sabotage without the therapist. Put your money there, not on a GLP-1. Get that therapist first, because then even if you do need a GLP-1, I just had to bring that in, it's going to be so much more successful because you have a therapist, you have a coach, and then you have the thing, and then you can actually wean off the thing and save yourself money regardless. There was the framing it, there was the naming it, and then you put it into the app, and then we were able to build away from it. And the funny thing is because Amy did the process of building herself away from dieting, she was still staying either in a deficit or only touching maintenance on the times where she did overeat, because we were able to create a big enough deficit and still get her the results that she wanted. But that would not have happened without doing the stuff that we did beforehand to rid the diet fatigue, to get her away from binge eating on a daily basis, to making it something that happens once a week, maybe twice a week. So it keeps her in now the diet reality, not diet mindset with surplus calories, but actual dieting. So yeah, that's what I want you to take now, because I feel like that self-criticism, worrying about what others think, which is still something that we're working on in other areas of your life, but worried about what others think, that judgment, it's not really the judgment of others, it's self-judgment. And because we judge ourselves so much, it shows itself through fear of shame.
Yes, so true. And I will say, to tag on to what you said, that it's an excellent compliment to have a therapist and a coach. Like, um, like the two of you complement each other so well. Like I could not even put this together if I tried. It's just, it's just amazing. And that's been huge. And it's important. I mean, sometimes it can be challenging to find a good therapist too. But so what was the question? I don't know.
Oh, it was because it was the whole you're worried about what I would have you because the I don't know what she used to do, but you were afraid. You never used to log things. You never used to admit that you used to have these nibbles. And then when you were with old coaches, you never used to say you. I don't know whether you were ashamed in the past for that before, but it took you a while for you to then admit it to me, and then we could actually work on it.
Yes, that's right. Because I thought, oh, I remember now. I thought that I thought I would be punished if I told you, and I thought that I wouldn't be able to go into fat loss, or that you would yank me out of fat loss if I told you. I thought so. I come from like a punishment mindset. Like if I do something that I'm not supposed to do or that I shouldn't do as far as food is concerned, well, and as far as anything other, this bled, of course, into other parts of my life. Then I lost my train of thought. I thought that it was
You thought that I was going to take you out of fat loss.
yes, I thought that I thought I was gonna be punished for doing something wrong. I thought that that's what was gonna happen because I was punished a lot. That's where the childhood trauma stuff comes in, and emotional abuse and that sort of thing. And so, and when I told you, and I think you said you're the one judging yourself, I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. And so where we get into trouble is
I also said that I was waiting for that to happen because I was expecting
that's
it.
right.
So
You're like, you've gone a long time in fat loss without overeating. Like something must be like that's not normal, or that's like not. That's just not
I'll
human.
explain that part later, but I want you to continue going on to what you were saying because I think that was
That's just not human to do that. And so so yeah, so I was judging myself harshly. And I think what we do, like in general, is that we tend to have a feeling or have a thought or have this, at least for me, an uncomfortable sensation. And then we attach judgment to it rather than being curious or being like compassionate with ourselves and, oh, well, where's this coming from? We immediately attach a judgment to it. And that's where we get ourselves in trouble. It's not the feeling itself, it's what we attach to it. And the whole idea, like the self-criticism and what am I doing wrong? Like I shouldn't be having this feeling. And, I tell my clients, a lot of times people just should all over themselves. Well, I should be feeling this way. I should be feeling better. Like this person lost his soulmate a month ago. Well, I should be feeling better. And I'm like, well, how do you figure? And it's the same with food, like, or with dieting or with changing our physique or transforming, like, oh, well, I should be farther ahead than I am. And what are people usually at this point? Like, and is there a timeline? That's a question I get asked. Like, how long will it take? And this is probably a smart alecky answer, but it takes how long it takes.
no, this happens everywhere. And I know, because I know the stages of, I don't understand grief in itself through the emotional aspect, but I understand it through the way that it actually lays out. And grief in itself, it's funny how you mentioned this before. Grief is kind of the same as all of this. Grief has relapse. Grief has stages. It has phases. And every single one of those come with relapse. And the same with behavior change, the same with all of this stuff. There is going to be relapse. And if you think that you should be further along with your grief journey, you're going to suppress it. And that leads to a whole host of issues. And I'm sure that you've seen that show itself in so many ways. I want to know how you can connect the two, because maybe that can help people relate it, because I've never seen it. I'm not a grief therapist, so I'll let you kind of make the two links. But I wanted to quickly read something out in what you said. So put a thing on that one. And also on the timeline aspect, that kind of ties into the whole the fantasy way we think it should look. It's the same thing. Now, I shared this on my personal page stories because I think it's so good. Sometimes what you call self-awareness is just you overthinking things you dislike about yourself. It's just self-criticism. If you think you're self-aware, that comes with compassion, without judgment. You notice things without judgment. You name things without shaming. When your awareness turns more into an obsession, you're not becoming more curious or conscious. You're just digging deeper into shit that's not going to serve you. You need more acceptance of what's human about you. And then you don't see things as they are. You see them as you are. Most of the time, you're reacting to your insecurity. You mistake your triggers for facts, your fears for evidence, which then makes the fears come true because you prove your own self true, and your assumptions for the truth. You're not interpreting reality. You're interpreting your story about reality. And I think this ties into body image. A lot of us have this bad body image day, or hormones happen, and then that's our version of reality. We're reacting to our insecurity. We're reacting to our insecurities about our body. And then that shows it this is a cycle. And then that impacts how we then relate to others around us, how we relate to ourselves. And then we go to food if we can't sit with that discomfort. And then we try to deny this, that, and the other. And then we blame ourselves because we're doing everything right. No, you're not. You're just believing now your version of reality that you're doing everything right because everything else is under the rug. So I just made a connection there. And then there was one more. If you fear being a burden, that is going to be the biggest issue for you, because then you're not going to ask for help. And that is a huge thing as well. And then a lot of people feel like they're very aware of other people and they can read the room well. But no, you're reading yourself more than you read others. It's your version of reality again. That's the way that I interpreted that. But the reason I wanted to come into this, I hope you took note for what I wanted you to say, because I've kind of forgot that part. Because something I wanted to quickly touch on why I said it's about time that you overate. It wasn't more so the fact that that's what happens. It's because I know you, and I know that that was your biggest issue. So when we did the work and we got you out of the dieting mentality and we finally got a grip on everything, and you were doing well with the emotional eating because we had more food to play with, we then had to test that into an unstable environment. This is why you do not start your fat loss journey, even if you have a lot of weight to lose. You don't start it in a fat loss phase, because you cannot break bad habits, break bad coping mechanisms, whatever else it is, that you can't break the bad stuff, and you can't create new stuff that actually serves you in an unstable environment, in an environment that has innate restrictions around it. So now that we built it in a more abundant environment where it's actually putting the odds for her, not against her. The odds are against you if you're a binge eater, overeater, when you feel restricted, when you're on 1,200 calories, when you have to not log something because you're going to go over your calories, which happens every single day because no one can realistically stick to 1,200 calories. But you are able to stick to a strict diet protocol because we did the work outside of it. And it was because of that now we had to test it into a dieting environment. And then you went a few weeks without doing anything. I'm like, something's amiss here. Something's amiss here. Like, should have happened by now. And then you admitted it. And it's like, okay, cool. This is why I'm not taking you out of fat loss, because this comes back to the emotions, the discomfort, the sitting with your feelings. If we keep taking you, and other coaches, this is where might be different from many coaches as well. And this is where my maintenance phases are different, and why a lot of people don't understand this, because I haven't really spoken about it a lot. But I don't just take you out of the idea of focusing on diet so that everything's really fine and dandy, put you into a diet. As soon as things fuck up, take you out of it again, because then you're never going to be successful at dieting. And this is the same as, I'm not going to start with a coach because I'm too busy. I'm not going to start with a coach because I have too much on my plate. Well, that's the point. You need to start in a state of mess so that you can handle it when that mess comes up again. And that's the kind of same thing with the diet. It's like we need to have you in that diet in a place where you're experiencing these struggles, where you're going to fuck up, because you're going to fuck up. We need you in the diet when things are going to go pear-shaped, because we need to learn how to handle those situations. Because if every single time that something happens, you're then going to overeat afterwards because shit, fuck a bucket. Or I'm going to put all of this on hold. I'm going to let all my habits go because life is so busy. Then we're never going to get to where we want to be. It's the same thing. We need to learn how to handle these human elements, these life happening elements, because we're not a robot. We don't live in a vacuum. And if you think that everything comes down to whatever happens in the gym is because of the gym, I'm not getting stronger on my deadlifts, I'm a moral failure. Well, no, you're not eating enough food, number one. Number two, you're stressed the fuck out of your mind. You're not sleeping. You're overtraining because you're doing 100 sets of absolutely everything. That's why you're not getting strong on things. It has nothing to do with your strength. That strength can't show itself when all this other stuff is happening. It's kind of the same thing. Your diet progress is never going to show itself when you're overwhelming yourself with all of this other stuff that it's not even letting you do this diet stuff. I have a client example, and then I'm going to throw it back to you. Sorry. I just feel like this is so freaking powerful. She wants to do all these different things. And because the military mindset, it's, I need to achieve X, Y, Z. I'm a hard worker. I can only rely on myself. I need to achieve X, Y, Z. I put myself to numbers. How will I know if I'm progressing if numbers aren't going up in the gym? I've been putting, and then on the other side, it's, I've been dieting my whole life. I've been working my ass off. I've been focusing on this so hard. I should have results by now. Well, it's very difficult to do that when you're not able to be consistent in the way that you need to be consistent to get progress, to put enough practice into what needs practice, because you keep booming and busting. If you keep skipping things here and there because you're under-recovered, you're overstressed, and your body is not going to be able to change because you're a tight ball of knit instead of a soft ball of knit that you can actually knit into a scarf.
Yeah, exactly. And as you're talking about that bit, I'm thinking, you know, a lot of times we think like I'm a failure rather than, well, my behaviors aren't that great, or my habits aren't that great, or I'm
Expectations.
yes, expectations. It's not you, it's your behaviors. So I think we need to separate ourselves from our behaviors
Do that with
too.
your
And like not
and emotions.
yes. Yeah, like sometimes I tell my husband, well, it really irritates me when you do this. And he takes it personally. Like we take it personally, like, oh, well, that means I'm a bad person or that I'm annoying. And I'm like, no, you're not annoying. Your behavior is annoying. Like, I mean, it's not that, it's the behavior that is stressful. Yeah, and as far as comparing grief and eating and fat loss, I think that so we don't have a timeline for grief. Like, I don't know how long it's going to last. Well, you'll carry that grief with you the rest of your life in some form, and you'll carry your special person if it's a loss as a result of death in your heart, and you'll move forward with that, and the grief will get less intense. And so we see patterns, and there aren't necessarily like stages, like in a linear way. There are all these different feelings or different feelings that we can have. And we think it goes like, ooh, and then it goes back up and we're done. But actually it's this zigzag between all the feelings, and it's messy. It's very messy. And so I can tell someone like, these are the patterns you might see. Like you're numb at first, then you experience the most intense part of the grief. Then you take on roles that your loved one used to do, and then you move forward while maintaining an enduring connection with your loved one. And so I don't know if you can see patterns with people like this is kind of how it can go, but each person is different. Like grief is like our fingerprint. Every person has a different fingerprint. And one time you shared with me, I was commenting about how my arm went back funny when I was doing the pull downs, and I thought that my form was wrong. And you said, no, that's just how your body does it. Like, that's your body. And I think that that can be applied to like eating. Like, this is the way that I manage things, and it's different from anyone else. And what works for me might not work for you, but there are some general things that we can suggest that might be helpful to you as you go through this. But there's not like a cookie cutter. There's not like a cookbook. I had a client who's probably on the autism spectrum, neurodivergent, asked me if there was some kind of manual for grief. I'm like, no, unfortunately, there's not. It's like really individualized. And I think that is what makes it important to have a coach too, not a cookie cutter coach, like we'll get you this in 12 weeks. But a coach who understands the nuances, that it's going to be different, and what makes me tick isn't going to make you tick.
Squats. I'm going to relate it to squats. I used to think there was something inherently wrong with me, that my body is fucked, and it made me hate squats because I could never make my squat look like the textbook version. And I will never make it look like the textbook version because I have freaking long femurs. I am built like a damn giraffe. I just have this like, I'm going to say chunky body, but I don't mean it that way. I have like this chunky body with these like legs that are like this long. And it's just like, okay, imagine this giraffe kind of like squat. Like, no, I'm not going to look like a textbook version. And I used to and then we get shamed because other people also think it's supposed to be that way. So people say, no, your back isn't straight enough, because people have this expectation that their back needs to be super straight and upright in a squat. Well, no, because if you have long femurs, you're going to look more like a good morning. So if you keep trying to fit your squat to what the textbook has, you're going to keep feeling like a constant failure, because that is not how your body is built. This goes back to the whole fantasy thing, the whole fairy tale thing. It links to everything. And there was something that you said in there as well with the whole grief thing, with it being like all scattered with emotions and stuff. And this is why I'm trying so hard not to call it phases in journeys anymore. I'm not into that whole phases thing. It's more so we are either going to put you into a calorie deficit or we're out over here. Here is where all the improvements can happen. You have more energy to focus on hobbies, on finding joyous things, on working on relationships, because you're going to have so much more energy, and it's not taken up with food. It's not taken up with, because in a diet phase, you're going to have to be more meticulous. If you're not willing to get meticulous, if you're not willing to say no to things, if you're not willing to make the hard choices to stick to what's within that diet, you're going to live your whole life dieting, never seeing results. Get in the diet, get over and done with, realize that you have however many years of your life to live. You can experience those things later, unless it's a once in a lifetime wedding, as an example, because you only have a wedding once. That is a different thing, but I would assume that you're approaching this from a place where you're planning ahead. So you would have whatever you need to have done before your wedding so that you can actually enjoy your wedding and not diet for a wedding. I have a client who used to crash diet for everything, including any event, any travel. First time ever, we're actually eating the most food ever, 2,400 calories into a wedding, into a bridal shower. And she looks the best she ever had. And she's the most confident she ever had been. And it didn't come from food. It didn't come from dieting. It came from realizing that she is capable of so much more than she realizes. She realizes how good strong feels. And she's actually sticking to what she said she's going to do versus sabotaging all the time. And this relates to the relationship with yourself. She has now the best relationship with herself, that it's not trying to get filled with her binge eating like she was doing. It's not leading to her wanting to fix her body with a diet. She's finding that her body is getting all the results she thought that crash diets would give her, that over exercising and cardio would give her. Like, no. And if we're unfulfilled in our relationships, we're going to seek that through other things. We're going to seek that comfort. Like, this is that joy. If you're not experiencing joy in life, what happens?
Right.
What difference did finding joy, like what did you notice shift?
Um, I think everything did. I think my attitude for one thing got better. I am more relaxed. I've always been pretty easily amused, and I went through a long period where I just wasn't happy. I just wasn't very happy. And now I find myself laughing like I used to laugh, and being more open to whatever is going to come rather than trying to push the river. I just go along with the river more. I think that that's a huge thing, and just everything lights up. It just I think feeling the feelings deeply opens up a whole new world. It just and that includes like feeling the depths of sorrow and feeling joy. And I mean, I guess you could argue this point, but I think sometimes we have to feel the all of the feeling. Like if we just feel all of the feelings in a shallow way, we're not going to necessarily experience great joy. We're not going to have maybe great sorrow either. But if we experience them deeply, then we're going to have deep joy as well as the deep sorrow. So you
And
have to have one. I mean, you have to take all of it. You can't just pick and choose, like, I want to have deep joy, but I'm not willing to feel these other like negative feelings.
I want to go into this, and you already know my personal stuff as well. So we can have a chat around this if you want to have a discussion around it. But I feel like this really ties into everything. So the first question I'm going to ask is, how has allowing yourself to feel deep sorrow, or not even deep sorrow, but the deep fears, what if this, what if that, allow you to then experience deep joy? Because letting go of your old and going into discomfort is in itself the greatest fear of all, but you allowed yourself to let that go so you could experience the deep joy. There's that as well. But I want to know how all of this kind of relates and how that's then impacted, number one, how you view yourself. Number two, your experience in the health and fitness journey. Number three, your patience to do things the right way. Your ability to navigate maintenance now without needing to get your results ASAP. Your ability to be patient through the process because you're enjoying it now. You're not in a rush to the deadline, and why the lack of joy made it feel like such a rush, et cetera, et cetera. Like, how does it all tie together?
Yeah, so I think that the main thing with feeling my feelings deeply is that I am able to trust myself, and I'm able to catch myself when I am starting to spin, as I call it, like when I'll get that wound will get tapped or hit or bumped, and then I go uh into this spiral where I'm experiencing my feeling, or I'm experiencing the thought process where it's just swirling. Everything is swirling. So I think trusting myself and being more aware of when that's starting so that I don't go down that path, because that affects everything. That affects eating, that affects my relationships, that affects just everything. So that's the main thing, is the self-trust that I've noticed has improved a lot. And I think now there's not such a, like, I am enjoying the process. I really, really like to lift, and I feel really badass, and I feel strong, and I feel confident. And so I like that process of, at first, I guess it was more the aesthetics, and that was what I thought this was going to be. But this is just so much more. It's like from the inside out and sometimes outside in. And the way that health, or the way the mind body spirit connection is huge. And I think that this process that you have with me and with your clients is incorporates all of that. And that is what I wasn't expecting. And so that's been huge to open up every part and to realize how interconnected everything is.
I really love that interconnectedness that you just mentioned, because I just took some notes, and I think this part here is important because you never experienced joy because I asked you what brings you joy and you had no answers for me. I asked you, what do you enjoy doing outside of your work? Because what I heard on the call is you're either working or you're in food. I didn't hear a single thing about spending time with your husband. I didn't hear a single thing about having a fulfilling relationship. I didn't hear anything. Like, you're in the same room with your husband and you're not even on the same couch doing the same things, like actually talking to each other. That's what I picked up from that conversation. Like, I listened to all of these things, and as soon as you started to experience the joy, the walking, as soon as you moved away from the fear of, well, if I'm not doing all this cycle, because you had the fear of, can I still keep in the, like, one of the cycle? I kept in one of the cycle things because you had the fear. I'm starting to remember all of it. Like, this is the thing. I try to remember as much as I can on my clients because I freaking love my job. But regardless, I remember that you wanted to keep one in there. So we kept one in there, but you were doing it pretty much every single day. And the fear was, I'll gain weight, all this, all that, because I'm not burning as many calories. And you even came to me saying, I lift heavy, I train hard, but I knew that your version of heavy and hard weren't actually heavy and hard. But to you, that was your reality. Like I mentioned before, when I read out what was on my phone, like, we believe what we fundamentally believe to be true. And that was your version of reality. So I then got you to experience what it's like. You joined the gym near you, the YMCA, and you fell in love with it. But the point I'm coming to here is, number one, you don't know what you don't know. Number two, you don't know how good it feels until you feel good. And then you want to keep feeling it. You want to keep chasing it, and you don't want to lose it. And this comes to the whole grief thing, the whole fear of sorrow. You're gonna experience that, even in relationships. As soon as you start to feel feelings for someone or start to feel that deep love, I don't know whether that's what you're experiencing now that you're going deeper into your relationship with your husband. So we can talk about this now, because I'm pretty much on par with you here. It's like, now you're starting to feel deep feelings. You're scared to lose it. You're scared to lean in a little bit. This is what I'm just saying. You're scared to lean in a little bit more, maybe, because what if I do allow myself to go there? What if I do allow myself to let go? What if this happens? And if I relate this to food, it could be, what if I do allow myself a little bit more abundance? What if I binge? What if I fuck it all up? What if I never want to go into a diet again? This, that, and the other. I'm going to end up fat. This, that, and like, you can have all these beliefs of the what ifs, but you're never going to actually experience the things that you could experience that could lead to the outcomes you always wanted your whole life if you never lean in. And I've seen this with people in dieting where they're so scared to properly go into this building phase. They lean in, but there's always this fear. And because of that, they end up fulfilling their self-fulfilling prophecy, gaining the weight, and then proving to themselves, see, I knew it. So then you never allow yourself to do it. But no, it's because you still had it on your mind. And like I mentioned before, diet fatigue still exists there. You're never going to have a successful phase where you can cut your calories, where you can effectively lean out, where you can effectively drop body fat, if you don't lean into the process for long enough. And long enough is not 1 year. It is, you need to do the work. There is no timeline to this. But if you're someone that needs to build substantial muscle and you don't have substantial fat to lose, it is much more than 12 months, because you ain't building shit in 12 months that's going to be noticeable by the end of a fat loss phase. If you have more body fat to lose, then it's just whenever you're ready, which is going to be at least 6 months. With Amy, it was 8 months. And she did the work, and we're still doing the work. She did a successful diet phase. Now we're in maintenance, and she said that she's looking leaner in maintenance now. And that was after an initial wobble in maintenance. And then that's always going to happen, because maintenance is that's what I just said. As soon as you start eating more, you're going to sometimes overcompensate on the other side. So I was expecting you to say that already. That was another, okay, cool. I expected that. Let's move on. Like there are all these things that coaches can guide you through, because you're going to feel like you're the problem. You're going to feel like there's something wrong with you. And there was probably in your head, why the freaking hell is this happening to me when I have more food? Well, that is actually what is predicted to happen. There's nothing wrong with you. That is just biology. So that's kind of that whole thing I wanted to say. And how about, yeah, that part. So you don't know how good it feels to feel good. I don't know. I should have got you to take notes, but that's okay. That part. And then how about how this then relates to your relationship with your husband now too, because you're allowing yourself to experience more. Going back to what I said at the start, if you wanted to combine how they're both related.
Oh, yeah. So I am able, I think if we can't trust ourselves and have compassion for ourselves, it's hard for us to trust other people and have compassion for other people. And the more I've developed self-compassion and self-trust, the more I've been able to be trusting of my husband and compassionate with him. And this, his, of course, we all have our past and we all have our dings that we come out of childhood with, and some dysfunction and that sort of thing. I think that it has, what I've learned to do is that the first thought or the first feeling that pops into my head isn't the truth necessarily. Like my thoughts and feelings aren't necessarily facts. And so I get the story again, I get the story in my head about, I know how to read the room pretty well. I literally do, because of the childhood trauma. That's one thing that people who have experienced trauma can do, because we're constantly scanning for people's mood shifts and when's the shit gonna hit the fan. And so if I can get out of my head and say, no, Dan loves me very much, and know that that's true, then I can come into the relationship with more like softness, and not like he's out to get me, like I'm out to get myself, I guess. Like I was out to get myself and make it really hard for myself. So I complicate things with him rather than think, okay, like giving myself the benefit of the doubt and giving him the benefit of the doubt.
I love that. That's the compassion stuff that we need to do with ourselves. And one thing that I realized is it's honestly being willing to speak your words. And this comes into the food as well, being willing to just do the thing, to embrace your human, to make the mistakes, to learn, to be a beginner, to be a beginner, because you're never going to have those learnings, not mistakes. You're never going to have those learnings that lead you forward. You need to have the learnings, and learnings don't come from staying in your comfort zone. They come from actually putting yourself into situations, like I mentioned before, that are going to test you in those ways. And many times doing the hard work isn't getting more stricter. It's allowing yourself to shift focus, to pivot, so you can actually get to where you want to be. Because if the ladder was up against the right wall, you would be somewhere up the wall to your destination. But most people have the ladder against the wrong wall, and other people are using the wrong ladders. You might have the right idea, but your ladder has the rungs way too far apart for your current capabilities. So,
right. And then, I spent a lifetime doing that. And I thought, because I've been a social worker, a licensed social worker for quite a while. Like 20 years ago, I got my master's degree in social work. And so I thought I had it all together, and I thought I was doing the right things, and come to find out, like I would tell people oh yeah, you need to feel your feelings. And I've not done that until just recently. Like I thought my ladder was against the right wall, but it was all whopper jawed, and and the rungs were too far apart, and the thing was rusty, and it had like missing pieces and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. And you didn't expect it to be messy. And that's the thing. So I'm going to summarize how this all relates together. And then I feel like this will be a really great place to then mention the whole like this maintenance thing that you're finally embracing. So we spoke about relationship with yourself and others, because self-love and emotional fulfillment, this can even be for many of us actually having, and like I know it's the taboo topic, but allowing yourself to really enjoy your sex life as well. Most of the time we don't, because we are so up in our heads about shame, about our bodies, about not being able to stick to this plan, that plan. And that adds to the continual cycle you'll find yourself in. Emotional eating, using food to fill a void, alcohol to fill a void, over exercising, under recovering, feeling like more is better, I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough, because it all kind of leads together. And then the second one, suppressing your feelings and food. When you suppress uncomfortable emotions, you're going to then turn to food as a coping mechanism. And it makes phallus incredibly challenging when all you're doing is reverting to unconducive behavior patterns and then saying, I'm the problem. Self-shame and criticism. I'm the problem. I'm doing something wrong. Well, no. You just need to slow down. You need to say, I'm a human. And the more that I blame myself, the more that I'm going to keep myself stuck, because I'm just going to feel worse about the situation. I'm just going to become more resistant to doing things the way that I need to do them, because I'm just going to end up feeling this shit again, because I'm going to make a mistake. And then it's that self-criticism cycle. And then there's the trusting the process, because it's not a linear journey. And my squat is never going to look like your squat. Your deadlift is never going to look like my deadlift. And you're not going to make the same deadlift progress that I've made in the last 1 month. Well, the first 1 month of me getting back to deadlifts, because what you don't know about my journey is that I deadlifted way heavier in my past. And that is kind of like the mirage. It's almost like the reason I brought that up is I have done like almost 190 kilos, or that might be like 420 or something pounds before. And I was able to progress in 5s and 10s and get really freaking strong on my deadlifts really quickly, because I have that in my past. Now, people who are making really fast progress in their health and fitness, you do not know that they did college football. They did sports in high school. Their parents had some form of literacy around health. Maybe your family has never touched health, has never touched fitness, never did this, that, and the other. So you're coming from a completely different context. So they're able to pick up concepts pretty easy. They're able to fit it into their life, and they're able to make progress faster because they have it in their past. Yes, they might have a whole period of time where they never did anything, but they still had it in their past. You don't. That is how they relate. And that was relating to the whole separating yourself from your behavior, because you are not your behaviors. And there is reason behind behaviors. We do things for a reason. We don't do things because we just do them. No, it's serving a purpose. Or if you do your parts work and read the book No Bad Parts, we do things because they served a purpose in the past. And we need to figure out what that is so that we can reconcile with the fact that it served us once before. It is not serving us now. We need to address it. And that's where the fantasy and reality comes in, because you think it should look like this, but no, your reality is different. And the most important part is finding joy. I'm going to sum it up with that, because I feel like now that you have joy, this maintenance feels different, and you're able to trust yourself in it, even though there was that slight hiccup before and the little fears in your head. Because you're allowing yourself to feel the feelings, you're able to now knit them out and trust the process. Trusting the process is huge. When
Yes.
your life lacks joy and fulfillment, you're going to seek it through things that don't help you. But in shifting the focus, you're going to have so much more patience through the process, which is what you need for change. Now I'm going to let you sum up the podcast with everything you want to throw at it and how it's made this new shift into maintenance even more powerful for you.
Yeah, I did not address the patience part. I am not a patient person. I did come into this thinking, well, what you've done for the past 5 years hasn't worked. And that's the definition of insanity, keeping, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting it to be different. And quite frankly, I was just like so in the skids and crashed and burned that I was just like, oh, it can't get worse. So we'll try. And I wasn't looking for a coach, like I said, and you just scooped me up, and I believe in serendipity. But anyway, I do think that key things for me, and maybe for anyone, would be to feel your feelings deeply and allow that to happen, because that just opened everything up. That opened up my relationship with my husband, our sex life, because I was suppressing all the feelings. Like I said, you suppress all of them, not just the negative ones. And so I wasn't, I was just like, it was just this mild joy, I guess, and mild feelings. And so trusting yourself and building true self-awareness, which you've talked about a lot of times, having that curiosity, coming at it with curiosity rather than judgment. Like when we have a sensation in our body, we recognize that, and I wonder what that feeling is, but not in an interrogating way. And then we experience the feeling, and we, self-compassion is the balm for that wound that keeps getting touched. That's the balm for it. And so all of this is tied together too in the mind, body, spirit connection. And, yeah, feeling our feelings is just huge. And like you said, that we'll look for other ways to manage our feelings, like whether it's food or smoking or drinking or drugs. We'll look for other ways to do it, and other ways that aren't healthy, when the real, like, one thing I'm fond of saying is the cure for grief is to grieve. That's what we say as grief counselors. And the cure for like helping minimize the shame that you're feeling is to feel your feelings with compassion for yourself, to feel them deeply.
That last part is really important as well. But you did just say the best way to go through grief is to feel the grieving. And that article that you sent me, I feel like that kind of shifted things for me as well. If there's anything that you want to ask me as well that you think relate to this, go ahead. But I feel like we hold ourselves back from so much joy because we're afraid of losing it. We hold ourselves back from hiring a coach and going all into the process because we're scared of losing it. And like I mentioned with heartbreak, you might have lost the weight before, gained it back, and now you don't want, or you don't feel like you can do it. You're scared to truly go all into the whole process, because what if you gain it back and you can't lose it again? You've already struggled so much in your life. Relate this to that toxic ex. You've been in relationships before and you felt so quote unquote in love, or whatever the hell else you want to call it. You had heartbreak. I honestly can't actually recall ever. I didn't realize this until I was reflecting. I don't think I've ever actually experienced heartbreak, except you want to call that whole like teenage heartbreak bullshit in high school. I'd never experienced actual heartbreak. And it's kind of weird. I feel like, I don't even know why, but I feel like it's because somewhere in me, I never got into the relationships that allowed me to truly feel deeply in that sense. But it's like a facade of quote unquote love. And you can really confuse your emotions if you don't allow yourself to go into all these feelings. And then when they don't work out, you can blame yourself, think it's your problem, this, that, and the other. And then you're just going to keep attracting, which I didn't. But the thing is, I kept attracting the same sort of toxic personality types. And I kept, like, it was the relationship with pretty much the same issues that I struggled with. And that's what a lot of people do with diets. We keep falling into these toxic diets, and then we blame ourselves, and then we're scared to actually lean in to something, or we start to feel something real, and then we're scared that it's all going to happen the same, because Your brain doesn't know anything. It's only experiencing what it knows on the surface level, and it feels the same. It's going to end the same. But as soon as you allow yourself to go all into the feelings, which this is what I mentioned on Dal's podcast. Amy was one of these clients that actually listened to the playlist, that allowed herself to feel the feelings. The other client didn't want to feel the grief, the sadness, because it's too hard. And it's only because you allowed yourself. I have a playlist. If you guys want to listen to it, literally message me on Instagram. But you listened to my playlist and it allowed you to go through all the feelings. And for myself, like I mentioned on Dal's podcast, I don't even know why I started crying, but I did. And I didn't turn it off. And I hated it. Like, I walked away at first because I was meant to go do my run anyway. So I walked away and then I went and did my run. And then I kept revisiting the playlist and then I kept adding to it. And I kept feeling sadness every single time I listened to it. And only recently, like 2 weeks ago, did I start just not feeling anything. I just started feeling really happy and I started loving the songs. But you will never get to that other side until you allow yourself to nudge into these uncomfortable feelings. But just doing that in itself isn't going to get you there. With your diets, these learnings, these failures, you're never going to get to the other side if you just see them as, oh, well, okay, cool, move on. Okay, cool, I'm crying, listening to the music, whoop-de-doo. You're never going to make it to the other side unless you pause. That awareness that you mentioned. You get curious. That's one thing we didn't mention. You get curious. You trace it back.
Yes.
Why did I fail? If you're going to call it failure. Why did this happen? Why did I fall off track? Oh, no wonder. I didn't eat proper breakfast. Oh, no wonder. I'm expecting too much of myself. Oh, no wonder. X, Y, Z. You can find so many reasons for something not panning out the way that you intended. And even when you can't, it doesn't mean there is something wrong with you. And that is what needs to come into this, because your emotions are not you. You're experiencing them and they're still there for a reason. You struggling is there for a reason. And you don't know what you don't know because you're inside the box. You might not be able to see it yet. And the reason I came to this is because you don't have to have all the answers right away. And I feel like that's what holds so many people back. They think they should already have it all figured out. I should already have the answers to this, that, and the other. But no, you shouldn't, especially if you're not a nutrition coach, especially if you didn't study it in whatever college, this, that, and the other. Eating food is not the same as eating in a way that supports your goals.
Right. Huh. Yeah, and as we've talked throughout the past, especially throughout the past several weeks and earlier in the podcast, it sounds like your parents shielded you from feeling sad or feeling heartbreak or feeling sorrow. And just the story that you mentioned about your dad, that when we were talking before the podcast recording. So I think that it's definitely, as you're speaking to now, it's the fear. Like, I have a colleague who people say, well, what if I had done this? Maybe my loved one would still be here. Rationally, they know that that's not true. And he says to them, even if you had done that, even if. And so there's a lot of trying to control, I think, and a lot of fear in both of the process, in grief and in uh, food and changing our life as far as fitness and food is concerned.
That kind of is funny. That ties back to the fantasy thing. Like, my parents expect it to be all this fantasy type of stuff. So my mom, I think I mentioned this part in the podcast where my mom protected me from grief. I never really experienced grief. So that's the reason why it's this like whole aspect where I know that love is such a deep emotion, and I've only really experienced something so deep that I feel so deeply reflected back to me from my parents. So I know that the grief that I might have with those is going to be immense because I know that's attached to them. And I feel that love with my dogs as well. And the mum never let me get a dog for that reason. I actually brought this up to my mom in that conversation as well. I'm like, no, mum, it's because of you. Like, you never let me go to funerals, number one. So I never gave a shit when people died. Like, I never felt anything. The first person that I saw cry out of both of you was Dad at his sister's wedding, at his sister's funeral. or when his sister died in hospital, my dad was in tears. My mom, she doesn't show a thing. She doesn't show like she's getting like, it's like, someone just died. Do you not have emotions? And then she goes, I do have emotions. Thank you. I'm like, well, you don't show them. And that's probably the most hurtful thing in the world, because what you feel is not what's exuded on the surface. And I feel like this is huge. The reason I'm bringing this in is our parents have a great influence on, like I mentioned before, on the way that we view food, on the way that we view ourselves. I got into an eating disorder because my mom, I saw her stepping on the scales. The comments my mom made, many of you have had comments made about you in school. You're a fat this, you're a fat that. My mom used to make comments on my stomach and say that I was gaining weight because I was gaining weight in high school. But it's not what they say fundamentally that does anything. It's the accumulation of different things. And then in PE, we had to measure ourselves with our height. We had to take scale weight. And then it's all these different things that make our reality. It's not one thing that triggers X. We can think it's that one thing, but it's not. It's accumulated. Just like I said, with your husband could do one thing and then you don't say anything because you know how he usually reacts, and you haven't yet learned those communication skills. But the thing is, I was shit at communication because my parents don't know how to communicate quite clearly. They don't know a thing about communication. So I had to learn it. I sucked at it, but I learned it. And now I have great communication skills. And that is why over the last 2 years, I've become an even better coach. And I'm going to say that because I realize it in my own communication styles now. I am so good at communicating with my clients compared to the way that I started, because I've done the work to make myself better. And this is why you're not going to have all the answers when you start out. Funny how it all ties together. And thank you. I got new meds and I'm thinking clearly compared to the last 2 podcasts. So I'm making all these connections now. This like, holy shit, I'm thinking clearly. But that's the thing as well. Sometimes I was struggling the last 8 weeks and I was getting worse and worse progressively. And I could have crash dieted, this, that, and the other, if it was something to do with dieting, whatever else the hell it is. But no, I recognized what was going on. I had to accept that a lot of what was going on around me was struggling and suffering, I should say. And I just had to wait until I got new meds, because then I could start thinking clearly. And I'm talking about ADHD meds for those that don't really know and you're just listening to this podcast. But now I can actually think clearly again, because the other ones just stopped working. And that's the thing. Sometimes we need different tools. Tools could work for a while and then they don't. The ones that I was on before worked for like 2 months and then they stopped. These ones are the ones that worked before I moved tablets, because she put me onto something that should be easier to take and should help you sleep better. I don't have a problem with sleep, so I got something that's more stimulative and it's fine. The thing is, exactly what you said before, going back to the parent influence, so that was like that mom thing. And what my dad said is just be careful this, because it's going to be worse. Like I said, I'm willing to say anything. He's like, it's going to be worse if you then break up and you experience heartbreak. And I'm like, well, actually, no, it's this very thing that you need to not bring into my life. Because if I'm not going to allow myself, he said, just be slow with things, because then if you guys end up breaking up, it's going to be worse with the heartbreak. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, actually, if I keep holding back and being worried about X, Y, Z and fearing how I'm going to feel on the other end, how badly, it's 11:11 on my end. I've been seeing 1111 for the last few days. It's insane. I just looked at the time. Anyway, and if you don't allow yourself to feel the feelings, then how am I ever going to experience the joy, the happiness, or the greatness that could be? Because I'm so scared of being hurt on the other side. You are not. And if I relate this to my diet, if I didn't allow myself to go all into maintenance, if I didn't allow myself, thank God I had the coach that I had. Stop focusing on dumb shit, Ruby. He ignored the shit that I complained about to help direct me into the direction I needed to be, to find these good things. And as soon as I experienced the joy, like you, this is where I wanted to bring in the maintenance, and then we'll tie it up. We were meant to tie it up before, but I think this actually links to you now. See, that's the same thing with the relationship stuff. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure you can tell as well, like I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm the most, like, just speaking about this, my heart it just feels so warm. And everything just feels better because I spend most of my time out now. I'm more effective now that I have the meds. I'm going to be more effective with the time that I need to have, get what needs to get done. And I'm able to give so much more love to my clients because, like Leanne said, another client in the group, she said this today. It's what I said as well. You are already a whole. You're not two halves that come together, but being together creates synergy that vibrates into every other element. And I feel like every other element of my life has improved because of this. And yeah, what if I go back to being miserable and unhappy or whatever else with heartbreak? Well, that wasn't a waste of time. I had the best experiences of my life. And all I'm going to do now is I know what I want. It's taught me the learnings. It's taught me what I want. It's taught me what makes me feel alive. It's taught me what I want from a relationship, what was missing. If something did go wrong, that gives me the opportunity. We don't just want to look for what we want because there's nothing really missing at the moment. That's the reason I never spoke on it. But if there was anything broken in this relationship or anything missing in this relationship, then that would give me the opportunity to be like, okay, well, what wasn't working? Maybe I should have done this. Maybe I should have done that. Like you mentioned, this is where this comes in. And this happens with diets as well. Maybe I should have done, it doesn't matter. You lost the weight, you regained the weight, whoop-de-frickin' do. You're not going to rewind time. You have now. You're the youngest you'll ever be now. It's you're never going to get another now. Now is the time for you to use all those lessons. But if you keep beating yourself up for failing, I could have done, I should have done, why didn't I X, Y, Z, whatever, you're just going to keep delaying it because you can say, I don't have enough time for X, Y, Z. Yes, okay, as a female in a relationship, if we go to relationships and you keep putting yourself into the dating world and attracting toxic people because you just want to hurry up and find someone and blah, blah, blah. Well, that might come in because you feel like I am not going to have eggs by the time I turn X or whatever else it is. I know that with women, it feels a lot more like that. And we can, that's the same thing with where your age is when it comes to menopause, to hormones, to I don't have a lot of time to fix this because you mentioned this before with patience. I need to get this all sorted out now. I need to find my partner now. I need to X, Y, Z now. But in rushing that, you're not going to get the actual outcome that you want. In trying to find someone on the dating world, on the dating app, you're going to keep attracting shitty people because in focusing on this thing, in being so focused on the rat race, you can't focus on two things at once. Like was mentioned in Brandon's podcast, look up at the ceiling, try to see the floor at the same time. You can't see both. Was that in last podcast? I don't know, but he did say that in one of the podcasts. That is something to keep in mind. You can't chase both. You need to let go of the past in order to move forward. Yes, you made mistakes before, even in relationships, but you need to let yourself go all in. You need to find ways that you can enhance this, make this better. How can that be? Is it date nights? Is it communicating better? What is it? Maybe if it comes, you're never going to have satisfying sex as an example. Sorry, this one just came up because I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to a podcast on this and it was really, the way she said it was just so blunt. But it's like, you can't expect your partner to know how to please you if you never actually tell him what you need. You're just going to keep leaving the bed unsatisfied, thinking he's a selfish prick because men are different than women. You already know this. They can get all their happy endings really easily. Women, it takes a lot. And it usually takes she said that it usually takes 15 to 20 minutes because of our safety mechanisms. But he's never going to give you what you need unless you voice what you need. This comes with diets as well. This comes with all of it. You need to be able to realize what you need first because you probably don't even know what you need. You don't know what you don't know. You probably think that it should be that easy. It's funny. You don't have a dick. So you don't expect yourself to get off the same way that he does, yet we expect ourselves to get results at the same pace that other people are getting it, and they are not us. Right. Even men can put on muscle so much easier because they don't do the same bullshit that we do, and men will always lose fat faster than we do because their 30% of a deficit still requires them to eat over 2,000 calories. your 30% of a deficit might put you at 1,200 calories, because 1,200 calories is not unrealistic for many women for fat loss. And fat loss is the shortest piece of the equation. You do not live on 1,200 calories, and most women should not be living on 1,600 calories. At least 1,750. That's like the minimum maintenance of most women. And you're above that now. And that was scary to you because you came to me on 1,000 calories. So let's tie that part together. Sorry, I just went on a long rant, but I think that a lot of what I just said kind of ties into something that could help you. So if you want to bring any of that in with the maintenance, with all of that shit, and if that changed something that you're thinking about now with your husband, bring that in as well.
Yeah, I think I felt when I went from the fat loss back into maintenance, I felt that discomfort because I had been dieting and fat loss or dieting for 5 years prior. And so that felt comfortable to me to be in that. And so then when I came out of it, it was really challenging. But yeah, communicating what you need is of course important, and accepting that you are where you are now, and being in the present moment, like you said, being able to be in the now and not looking toward, oh, well, I'll be happy when I lose 20 pounds, or I'll be happy when I have this certain physique, or I'll be happy when whatever it is happens. I'll be happy when I retire, that kind of thing. And that squanders away the time that we have now.
Exactly. I love that. I'll be happy when. I'm going to leave that there because I think that I'll be happy when is something that we keep telling ourselves that we're going to be when we get to this end outcome. So we just end up chasing the horizon, and we end up looking in the wrong places for what we think we need because we never stop to look at our emotions. Like I had one of my other clients, it was always, well, I feel fat, I feel fluffy, I feel this, I feel that, I never feel progress. Well, you came to me the same way before, but now you're stronger than ever, you're looking leaner than ever, and you're never going to actually feel that. The thing is, you will never know where you need to go or where you want to be if you don't know where you are now and what's been holding you back before. And that's one of the biggest things with allowing yourself to understand all of this stuff. But I love this. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. Is there anything else that you think that you want to leave people with if they came to me in the same place that you came to me? What would you want them to know? What would you want to say? What were your apprehensions, or what could have been your apprehensions if you weren't so sick of where you're at now? And then where you're at now, where if people can relate to where you are now, to be able to lean into that maintenance phase. So there's two different things.
Yeah. So if I had it to tell people, I would tell them just to lean into it and to move toward the experience, and that it is going to take a long time, longer than you think it would take, and to have an open mind and try to trust, and to go into it with the idea that this is a process and this is not a destination that you're going to reach, or a spot you're going to reach. It's something that is going to change your life if you'll allow it, if you'll let go of some of the things that you've hold. We can hold our cards so close to our chest, we can't even see them.
I love that. And the reason that I love that the most is because that ties into what you said with the joy. Well, as also what I said with the joy, you're never going to allow yourself to experience the process because there's no time, there's no there. You need to enjoy it to be able to let yourself get to this other place. So with that, I'm going to leave you guys. If this resonated with you, please let me know. Send me a message. I'm going to leave the links below. You can apply down below as well. And if any of you at all are experiencing any distress, even grief in your life, if there's anything that you want to know, I'm going to get you to send me any of your details as well, so I can put like your information down there so they can reach out to you as well, because Amy is freaking amazing what she does, and she's even better at it now because she has now allowed herself to feel things and to do the work herself. So she has only become better at her own job. And this is exactly what doing the work does. It factors into every element of your life. Love you all. Please, please. I am now up to 76 ratings of 5 stars. If you have not given me 5 stars, please, please. And if you do, just shoot me a screenshot on Instagram and let me know if there's anything I can help you with. And I will be willing to give you some free advice, a consult, whatever else it is that you need, because I really want to get up to that 105 stars. And I will talk to you later. And that is only a free consult if you've listened to this episode all the way through, because it is just, Amy is just, she's done the work and she is brave for doing it. And I'm going to keep shooting her name from the skylines, because if you guys could lean into the process the way that she has, you have no idea how much it could improve so many elements of your life. I am so proud of you for doing the work. Really, like from where you started to where you are now, it is freaking insane. You should be so proud of yourself. So love you guys, and you will hear me on the next podcast. Thank you.